The wine glass shattered against the wall, crimson liquid streaming down our family portrait like blood. My daughter Olivia's eyes blazed with a fury I'd never witnessed before, her finger pointing at me with the precision of a loaded gun. "You ruined this family," she screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of 2 decades of suppressed rage. Everyone froze. My son Michael clutching his girlfriend's hand, my husband Robert staring at his lap, avoiding the shrapnel of our family's implosion. That's when it happened. My mother, Eleanor, her 83-year-old frame bent from years of carrying her own secrets, slowly pushed herself up from her armchair in the corner of our dining room. The arthritic fingers that had once braided my hair now trembled as she steadied herself against the mahogany table where 35 Thanksgiving dinners had come and gone. "No," she said, her voice surprisingly strong, filling the suddenly silent room. "No, Olivia, I did." The grandfather clock in our hallway ticked 7 times before anyone dared breathe. I felt the floor beneath me shift, reality tilting on its axis. What was she talking about? My mother, the pillar, the matriarch, the keeper of family traditions, taking blame for our disintegration? It made no sense. Yet the certainty in her roomy blue eyes suggested she wasn't suffering from dementia or confusion. She knew exactly what she was saying. "Grandma, what are you talking about?" Olivia's voice had dropped to a whisper, her rage momentarily displaced by confusion. Mom's eyes found mine across the room, holding a lifetime of unspoken words. "It's time, Catherine," she said simply. "It's been time for 43 years. The temperature in our Springfield, Massachusetts home seemed to drop 20 degrees in an instant. Outside, November wind rattled the windows of the Victorian house that had belonged to my father's family for generations, the house where I'd raised my children, where I'd built what I thought was a life of love and sacrifice. Now it felt like a beautiful prison, walls closing in, decorated with smiling photographs of people who never really existed. "Mom, please, not now." The words escaped my lips before I could stop them, a desperate plea to keep the lid on Pandora's box for just one more day. But I knew it was useless. After decades of carefully constructed normalcy, everything was about to unravel like a cheap sweater, leaving me naked and exposed. "What is she talking about, Mom?" This time it was Michael who spoke, my sweet boy who'd always been the peacemaker. He'd come home from Boston specially for this dinner, bringing Stephanie to meet the family, poor thing. What a first impression we were making. His law degree from Harvard hanging in my husband's study seemed a mockery now. All that education, yet he knew nothing of his own history. Robert finally looked up, his handsome face, once the object of my complete devotion, now ashen. "Eleanor, please." We agreed. "Never." My mother shook her head slowly. "That agreement died when she did, Robert. 2 months ago. The promise doesn't hold anymore." A cold sweat broke out across my back. She, the unnamed woman who had haunted the edges of my marriage for 38 years. The ghost I'd pretended not to see. "Who died?" Olivia demanded, her earlier anger morphing into something more focused, more dangerous. Curiosity mixed with dawning realization. At 28, my daughter had always been too perceptive, too questioning, too unwilling to accept the surface of things. It's what made her a brilliant journalist and a challenging daughter. "Mom, I think we should all sit down," I managed to say, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. "Please, no more sitting down, Catherine. No more Sunday dinners pretending we're the goddamn Waltons. I'm done." Olivia's voice had regained its edge. For once in this family, someone's going to tell the truth. I felt a hysterical laugh bubble up in my throat. The truth. As if there was just one. As if the truth wasn't a multifaceted, ugly thing that changed depending on where you stood when you looked at it. My mother made her way around the table, her orthopedic shoes squeaking slightly on the hardwood floor. My husband and I had refinished ourselves the summer Michael went to college. She reached for Olivia's hand, and to my surprise, my daughter didn't pull away. "I have lived with this for too long," Mom said quietly. "We all have. And Elizabeth's death means there's no one left to protect." "Elizabeth?" Michael echoed, the name hanging in the air like smoke. My husband stood suddenly, his chair scraping backwards with an ugly screech. "I need a drink." He walked to the liquor cabinet, the same one that had belonged to his father, and poured 3 fingers of whiskey. He downed it in one swallow, then poured another. I watched him, this man I'd shared a bed with for nearly 4 decades, and realized I was watching a stranger. What was worse, I'd always known he was a stranger, From the very beginning, I'd just been too afraid, too desperate, or too in love to acknowledge it. "You owe them the truth, Catherine," my mother said. "All of it. Or I'll tell them myself." The choice was before me, stark as the winter that was settling over New England. Continue the lies that had sustained us, or burn it all down and see what, if anything, might grow from the ashes. My name is Catherine Elizabeth Reynolds. I'm 61 years old, a retired elementary school librarian, mother of 2, grandmother of 1, Olivia's 3-year-old daughter Lily, who thankfully was with her father tonight. I've lived in this town my whole life, in this house for most of my adult years. I volunteer at the church bake sales, head the local book club, and make casseroles when neighbors are sick. I'm the woman who remembers birthdays, sends thank you cards, and keeps track of everyone's food allergies. I am utterly, painfully ordinary. Or at least, that's the Catherine I've presented to the world. My daily routine rarely varies. I wake at 6, make coffee for Robert and myself, send him off to his dental practice with a packed lunch, then fill my hours with small, productive tasks. I tend my garden in spring and summer, preserve its bounty in fall, and plan for next year's blooms during winter. I call my children every Sunday whether they want to hear from me or not. I check on my mother daily since she moved to the assisted living facility 3 miles away, after Dad passed 5 years ago. I do these things not out of sainthood but out of penance. Every jar of homemade jam, every laundered shirt, every casserole is an offering on the altar of redemption. For what? My children never knew. Until now. "Mom?" Michael's voice pulled me back to the nightmarish present. "What's going on?" I looked at my beautiful son, Robert's dark hair but my green eyes, his father's height but my slender build. He was the compromise baby, the one we had after things settled, after we decided to make it work despite everything. Unlike Olivia, who carried the burden of being first, of arriving in the midst of chaos. "Your father and I began, then faltered. "How do you condense a lifetime of complications into words that won't devastate your children?" "Your mother was pregnant when we got married," Robert interjected bluntly, still standing by the liquor cabinet, tumbler in hand. "With Olivia. But I wasn't the father." I closed my eyes as Olivia made a small, wounded sound. When I opened them, her face had drained of color. "Then who was?" she whispered. Robert laughed, a harsh sound like gravel underfoot. "That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it, Kathy? Who was it? Because you never told me either." My mother's hand gripped her cane tightly. "That's not the whole story, and you know it, Robert. Don't you dare place this all on Catherine's shoulders." I found my voice at last. "Please, everyone sit down, please." This time they listened. Even Olivia, who slumped into her chair looking shell-shocked. I need to explain everything from the beginning. My mind raced back to 1984, to the summer I turned 20, when Ronald Reagan was president, and Prince's Purple Rain played everywhere. I'd just finished my sophomore year at UMass Amherst, home for the summer and working at the local library, already in love with books and the quiet order they represented. "I met someone that summer," I said carefully. "He was passing through town, staying with relatives. He was handsome and worldly, at least to my 20-year-old self. He'd been to Europe, had stories about places I'd only read about. I fell hard and fast, the way you do at that age when you don't know any better. I avoided looking at Robert, focusing instead on my children. By August he was gone, back to his real life, and I was pregnant. So Dad isn't my biological father?" Olivia's voice was flat. I shook my head. "No, honey. Robert and I didn't meet until later. 2 months later," Robert supplied, his voice bitter. "At church, of all places. Your mother was showing by then, trying to hide it under loose sweaters. Mom was helping me keep the pregnancy secret," I continued. "Back then, an unwed mother faced real stigma, especially in a small town like this. I was terrified, planning to drop out of college, get some job, raise the baby somehow. Then I came along," Robert said, finally sitting down. "Young, stupid, fresh out of dental school, new to town, setting up my practice. I met your mother and thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I remembered that Sunday, the way he'd looked at me across the fellowship hall, not with judgment but with genuine interest. Robert had been so different then, clean-cut, ambitious, uncompromised. I'd felt unworthy of his attention. When Robert discovered I was pregnant, he didn't run," I said softly. "Instead, he proposed. "A white knight complex," my mother muttered. "And my desperate gratitude." "It wasn't just that," Robert protested, showing a flash of his younger self. "I genuinely cared for your mother. I thought I could make a family, be a father to her child. We could build something real. And for a while we did. Or a convincing facsimile of it. Robert legally adopted Olivia after we married. We moved into this house, which his parents helped us purchase as a wedding gift. 3 years later, Michael was born. We hosted barbecues, joined the country club, took family vacations to Cape Cod every summer. Robert's practice thrived. I finished my degree in library science. We were living the American dream, at least on paper. What no one saw were the silent dinners, the separate bedrooms we occasionally kept, the underlying tension that never fully dissipated. What no one knew was that Robert had his own secrets, his own compromise in our marriage. "But that doesn't explain what Grandma said," Michael pointed out, ever the logical one, "about ruining the family." My mother sighed heavily. "Because there's more, so much more." "Elizabeth," Olivia said suddenly. "Who is Elizabeth?" "The woman who died 2 months ago." Robert and I exchanged glances, and for a moment, I saw a flash of our old complicity, the bond of two people who've weathered storms together, however dysfunctionally. "Elizabeth Palmer was Robert's colleague," I said carefully, "a dental hygienist who worked in his practice for many years." "She was more than that," my mother corrected sharply. "Tell them the truth, both of you. I'm too old for these games." Robert drained his glass. "Elizabeth was we had a relationship. For a long time." "How long?" Olivia demanded. 35 years, he admitted. On and off. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my children process this information, seeing the calculations happening behind their eyes, realizing that their father's infidelity had spanned essentially their entire lives. "Jesus Christ," Michael breathed. "You've been cheating on Mom for 35 years? It wasn't that simple," I found myself saying, surprising even myself by defending Robert. "Our marriage was complicated from the beginning." "Complicated?" Olivia echoed incredulously. "That's what we're calling decades of infidelity now?" "Your mother knew about Elizabeth from the start," Robert said defensively, pouring his third drink. "It wasn't behind her back." I felt my chest tighten. This was technically true, but hearing it stated so baldly made me realize how it would sound to our children, like I had no self-respect, like I had accepted the unacceptable for decades, which in many ways, I had. "I found out about Elizabeth 6 months after we were married," I clarified, my voice steadier than I felt, "just after Olivia was born. I remember that day with perfect clarity, finding the receipt for diamond earrings I never received, the unfamiliar perfume on his collar, the lipstick shade that wasn't mine. The confrontation that followed was ugly, raw. I was still healing from childbirth, my body foreign to me, my emotions in chaos from hormones and sleep deprivation. And there was Robert, confessing his connection with the pretty new hygienist at his practice, insisting it wasn't just physical, that they had something special. I gave him a choice. I told my children, the shame of that memory burning in my throat. Leave us, or stay and be a real husband and father. And I chose to stay, Robert interjected. I did try, Catherine. In the beginning, yes, he had tried. For about 2 years. Long enough for me to believe things might work, to start trusting him again. Long enough for us to conceive Michael in a brief period of reconciliation. But you went back to her, Olivia said, the accusation hanging in the air. Robert nodded, not meeting her eyes. Yes. And Mom just allowed it? Michael looked at me with disbelief. I swallowed hard. It wasn't that simple. By then, we had you both. The practice was successful. We had this house, our place in the community. Divorce wasn't as common then, especially not in families like ours where appearances mattered. So you stayed for appearances? Olivia's voice dripped with disappointment. I stayed for you. The words burst out of me with unexpected force. I stayed because I had one child whose biological father had abandoned us before birth, and another who deserved stability. I stayed because the alternative was poverty and scandal. I stayed because sometimes, Michael, we make impossible choices to protect the people we love. But he was hurting you, Michael said softly. All that time. I felt tears threaten. Yes, but leaving would have hurt you both too. My mother cleared her throat. Your mother made the choices she thought best at the time. We all did. But Robert, tell them the rest. About the money. Robert shot her a look of pure hatred. That's unnecessary. No, it's essential, Mom insisted. If we're finally telling truths tonight, tell all of them. I looked at my husband, suddenly understanding what my mother meant. The pieces clicked into place. The mysterious financial struggles over the past few years. The second mortgage Robert had insisted we needed for practice improvements. His increasing anxiety about retirement. Robert, I said quietly, what did you do? He couldn't meet my eyes. Elizabeth had health problems. Cancer. The treatments were experimental, not covered by insurance. So you paid for them, I concluded, feeling strangely calm in the face of this new betrayal. He nodded. Yes, and her house, and her sister's care when she couldn't manage anymore. How much? I asked. Almost everything, he admitted. The practice is mortgaged to the hilt. This house too. My retirement accounts are nearly empty. The room spun slightly. Decades of my careful budgeting, coupon clipping, modest vacations instead of extravagant ones. Also, Robert could support his second family, his real family, in many ways. Does that mean? I couldn't finish the sentence. We're going to have to sell the house, Robert confirmed. The practice too, probably. There's no way to keep up with the payments now. Olivia stood up so suddenly her chair fell backward. You selfish bastard. You've been living a double life while Mom sacrificed everything, and now you've left her with nothing? In her 60s? Olivia, Robert began. No, don't Olivia me. All those times you missed my soccer games, my graduation speech, my wedding, were you with her? With Elizabeth? Robert's silence was answer enough. And all those times you told me Mom couldn't come to my journalism award ceremony because she was too tired or had one of her headaches. You were lying too, weren't you? Keeping her from my accomplishments because you couldn't bear to sit next to her in public and pretend to be a happy couple? I gasped. What? Robert, you told me Olivia didn't want me there. That she'd specifically asked for just you to come. The look of shock that crossed my daughter's face confirmed the truth. For years, Robert had been driving wedges between us. Carefully crafted misunderstandings that kept us at odds while he played the understanding father, the mediator. You turned us against each other, I whispered, the full magnitude of his manipulation dawning on me. I never said those things, Robert protested weakly. Yes, you did, Michael said unexpectedly. You did it to me, too. All those times I called home from college wanting to talk to Mom about school stress. You said she was too fragile to handle my problems, that I should be the man and figure things out myself. I turned to my son in horror. Michael, I never knew you were struggling. Dad never told me. Of course he didn't, my mother said grimly. He needed to be the center, the controller. If you and your children had a strong relationship independent of him, he couldn't manipulate you all so easily. Robert stood up, swaying slightly from the alcohol. That's not fair, Eleanor. I did what I had to do. I stayed, didn't I? I provided. I gave Catherine and these kids a good life. A life built on lies, Olivia spat. On manipulation and gaslighting. You don't understand what it's like, Robert said, his voice rising. Being trapped in a loveless marriage. Loveless? I interrupted, genuine surprise in my voice. Is that what you've told yourself all these years, Robert? That I didn't love you? He looked at me with confusion. You knew about Elizabeth. You couldn't have loved me. I loved you despite Elizabeth, I said quietly. I loved you enough to share you, to accept the unacceptable, to build a life around your absences and lies. What I didn't know was that while I was making those sacrifices, you were systematically turning my children against me. This revelation hit me like a physical blow. All those years of tension with Olivia, her apparent preference for her father, her criticism of my passivity. It had been carefully cultivated by Robert. The emotional distance I'd felt from Michael during his college years, which I'd attributed to normal growing independence, that too had been engineered. My mother reached over and took my hand. I tried to tell you, Catherine, so many times, but you wouldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it. I corrected her. I'd invested too much, given up too much of myself, and now we have nothing, Robert said bitterly. The house, my practice, our savings, it's all going to disappear. Not the house, my mother said firmly. That's why I'm here tonight. That's what I meant when I said I ruined this family. All eyes turned to her. What do you mean, Mom? I asked. She straightened her shoulders, suddenly looking more like the formidable woman who'd raised me. and less like the frail octogenarian she'd become. When your father and I helped you buy this house, Catherine, we didn't just contribute to the down payment like we told you. We bought it outright in a trust. Robert's name was never on the deed. What? Robert and I exclaimed simultaneously. Your father never trusted Robert, Mom explained. He made sure the house would always belong to you and your children, Catherine. It's been in a family trust all these years. Robert has been paying a mortgage to your own trust fund. The weight of my mother's revelation hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Robert stood frozen by the liquor cabinet, the glass halfway to his lips. That's not possible, he finally said. I've been paying the mortgage for 38 years. Yes, my mother replied calmly. To the Reynolds family trust. Your payments have been going into a separate account all this time, building a nest egg for Catherine. My mind reeled back to those early days, to my father's insistence on handling the paperwork, on coming with us to every meeting with the bank. Dad had been a lawyer, cautious, methodical, and apparently far more prescient than I'd ever given him credit for. You never told me, I said to my mother, feeling a complex mix of gratitude and betrayal. Your father made me promise not to, unless it became absolutely necessary. She looked pointedly at Robert. I'd say financial ruin qualifies as necessary, wouldn't you? For the first time all evening, a look of genuine fear crossed Robert's face. So, the house is Catherine's, and eventually will belong to Olivia and Michael, Mom confirmed. It can't be sold without Catherine's consent, and it can't be used as collateral for your debts. A hysterical laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me. All these years of feeling trapped, of believing I had no options, and my father had quietly ensured I would always have a roof over my head, regardless of what Robert did. Dad knew, I whispered. Somehow, he knew Robert couldn't be trusted. Your father was a smart man, Mom said simply. He saw what you couldn't, or wouldn't see. Memories flooded back. Dad's tight-lipped disapproval whenever Robert worked late. His gentle suggestions that I finish my degree, just in case. The college funds he'd set up for the grandchildren that Robert couldn't access. It hadn't been just the house. Dad had been creating safety nets throughout my marriage. I remember the summer before you married Robert, Mom said, her voice taking on the cadence of storytelling. Your father found you crying in the garden. You were 7 months pregnant, swollen ankles, sweating in the July heat as you pulled weeds. He asked what was wrong, and you told him you were afraid of being a single mother, afraid of disappointing us, afraid of the future. I remembered that day too, the hopelessness I'd felt, the crushing weight of my circumstances. Dad sat down next to me on the grass, I continued, the memory so clear it could have been yesterday. He didn't lecture or judge. He just put his arm around me and said, Kathy girl, we're going to figure this out together. My eyes filled with tears. The next day, he came home with a tiny pair of baby shoes. He said, no grandchild of mine is going to want for anything. Olivia's expression softened slightly. Grandpa always had those little shoes on his desk. I used to play with them when I visited his office. They were yours, I told her. His promise to you before you were even born. Dad thought you were making a mistake marrying Robert, Mom said. He thought you were doing it out of fear, not love. But he also knew you were stubborn, like him. Once you'd made up your mind, there was no changing it. So instead, he protected me, I concluded. As best he could, Mom agreed. The house was just part of it. Michael leaned forward. What else did Grandpa do? Mom smiled sadly. Your college funds, for one. Set up as irrevocable trusts, with me as trustee until you turn 25. The summer cabin in Vermont. That's in Catherine's name too. Robert's face had turned an alarming shade of red. You all planned this behind my back? For decades? We protected our daughter and grandchildren, Mom replied without apology. And thank God we did, or Catherine would be homeless now thanks to you. I felt a strange calm settling over me, remembering my father, his quiet strength, his foresight, his unwavering love. While I'd been desperately trying to hold my marriage together with sacrifice and compromise, he'd been quietly building me escape routes I was too blind to see. Dad used to tell me stories, I said softly, about his mother during the Depression, how she'd sew money into the hems of curtains, hide silver coins beneath floorboards, keep emergency supplies in a hole in the garden. Always have something they can't take from you, he'd say. I thought they were just stories. He lived by that principle, Mom said, especially when it came to you, Catherine. I turned to my children. suddenly desperate for them to understand the man their grandfather had been. Your grandpa John grew up with nothing. His father left when he was 5. His mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. He put himself through college and law school working nights at the steel mill. He knew what it meant to be vulnerable, to be at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control. He never talked about that, Olivia said quietly. No, he wouldn't have, I agreed. He wasn't one to dwell on hardships, but they shaped him, made him cautious, prepared. I remembered the countless Saturday mornings of my childhood, accompanying Dad to his office while Mom worked at the hospital gift shop. How he'd let me sort colored paper clips while he reviewed contracts. How he always explained things to me as if I were an adult. Property laws, estate planning, the importance of reading fine print. The devil's in the details, Kathy girl, he'd always say. And he was right. He taught me to make strawberry jam, Olivia said unexpectedly. The summer I was 10, Mom was busy with Michael's Little League and Grandpa picked me up every Thursday. We'd go to the farmer's market for berries, then back to their house to cook. I hadn't known this. Another example of how parallel lives had been unfolding under my nose while I was desperately trying to maintain the illusion of a happy family. He taught me to fish, Michael added. Those weekends at the cabin when Dad was too busy to come. Grandpa showed me how to tie flies, how to cast, how to clean what we caught. He said patience was the most important virtue a man could have. Dad was trying to give you what Robert couldn't, or wouldn't, I realized aloud. Time, attention, unconditional love. He filled the gaps, Mom confirmed. We both did, as best we could. I looked at Robert, still standing by the liquor cabinet, his face a mask of humiliation and rage. For the first time, I saw him clearly, not as the savior who'd rescued me from scandal, not as the husband I'd desperately tried to please, but as a selfish man who'd taken full advantage of my vulnerability and gratitude. All those years, I said quietly, I thought I stayed in this marriage for the children, for stability, but I think I stayed because I didn't believe I deserved better. Because that boy who left me pregnant had confirmed what I secretly feared, that I wasn't worth fighting for, worth staying for. Catherine, Robert began, but I held up my hand. No, Robert, I see it now. You didn't marry me out of love or nobility. You married me because I was grateful, because you knew I'd never demand too much, never question your absences, never stand up for myself. I was the perfect cover for the life you really wanted, with Elizabeth. That's not fair, he protested weakly. Isn't it? You've spent our entire marriage gaslighting me, isolating me from my children, making me believe I was lucky to have you. And all that time, my father saw right through you. I turned to my mother. You said you ruined this family. What did you mean? Mom sighed heavily. Because I knew, Catherine. About Robert and Elizabeth. About the financial dealings. About all of it. Your father wanted to tell you years ago, but I stopped him. I thought it would hurt you too much. That it would destroy the children's relationship with their father. I thought I was protecting you by keeping silent. Instead, I helped trap you in this farce of a marriage. You were just doing what you thought was right, I said gently. No, I was being a coward, she countered. I saw my daughter suffering, saw my grandchildren being manipulated, and I did nothing. John wanted to confront Robert directly after your 10th anniversary, when he discovered the first of the financial improprieties. I begged him not to. Catherine has made her choice, I told him. We have to respect it. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I was wrong, Catherine. So wrong. And I've regretted it every day since. If we're all confessing sins tonight, Robert said, his voice slurring slightly from the whiskey. I might as well tell the rest. A chill ran down my spine. What more could there possibly be? Robert, don't, I warned, suddenly afraid of what might come next. He smiled unpleasantly. Why not? Apparently there are no more secrets in this family. So let's get it all out, shall we? My mother gripped her cane tightly. Robert, think carefully before you speak. Some truths only cause pain. He ignored her, focusing on Olivia. You wanted to know who your real father is. I can tell you that. My heart stopped. Robert, please. His name was James Wheaton, Robert continued ruthlessly. A married professor from your mother's college. Quite the scandal it would have been. A 20-year-old student impregnated by her 40-something, married English professor with 3 kids of his own. Olivia's face drained of color. Mom? Is that true? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. James Wheaton, a name I hadn't allowed myself to think about for 28 years. "Oh, it's true," Robert said with cruel satisfaction. "Your mother was just one in a long line of students he seduced. When she told him she was pregnant, he paid her $5,000 to get an abortion and disappear. But your mother, being Catholic, couldn't go through with it. So instead, she came home to Mommy and Daddy, playing the innocent victim." "Stop it!" My voice came out as a scream. That's not what happened. But Robert was on a roll now, decades of resentment pouring out of him. I found out the truth 6 months into our marriage. Found the letters he'd written her, hidden in a box in the attic. Very poetic, very romantic, until the pregnancy. Then suddenly, he was worried about his reputation, his family, his tenure, offered to take care of the problem, and send her to Europe for a semester to recover. Olivia looked at me, her eyes wide with shock, and something worse, pity. "Is it true, Mom?" she asked again. "Was my father your professor?" I nodded, unable to form words through my tears. "She was a fool," Robert continued mercilessly. "Thought he loved her, thought she was special, just like all the others before her, and all the ones who came after." "How do you know there were others?" Michael demanded. Robert laughed bitterly. "Because I tracked him down after I found the letters. Went to Boston, confronted him in his office. He laughed in my face, said Catherine was a sweet kid, but clingy, said I was welcome to his leftovers. Each word was like a knife, reopening wounds I thought had long since scarred over. The humiliation I'd felt when James dismissed our relationship as a fling, the devastation when he'd suggested terminating the pregnancy, the shame of returning home to my parents with no future, and no explanation I could give them. "You never told me you confronted him," I whispered. "Why would I?" Robert shot back. "To admit I'd married damaged goods? That I was raising another man's child? The child of a man who thought so little of you he wouldn't even acknowledge his own daughter? Don't you dare speak about Olivia that way." I felt something snap inside me. A lifetime of accommodating this man's cruelty suddenly unbearable. "He even gave me money," Robert continued, looking directly at Olivia now. $10,000 to take care of his problem. Said it was double what he'd offered your mother because inflation was a bitch." Olivia stood up abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. She rushed to the bathroom off the kitchen. We could hear her retching. "You took money from him?" I was aghast. "For Olivia? Why not?" Robert shrugged. "He owed us. I used it for the down payment on my first office. Seemed fitting, his money helping to build the life his daughter would benefit from." My mother struggled to her feet. "You disgust me, Robert. Always have." "Sit down, Eleanor," he snapped. "You're hardly innocent in all this. You and John, playing your little financial games behind my back for decades. Did you think I didn't know? I'm a lot of things, but I'm not stupid." "You knew?" I asked incredulously. "About the trust? The house?" "I suspected something," he admitted. "Your father was too smug, too protective. I knew he'd done something, just not what specifically." He poured another drink. "Doesn't matter now. Elizabeth's dead, the practice is underwater, and apparently I don't even own my own home. So much for 38 years of playing husband and father." "Playing?" Michael stood up, towering over his father. "Is that what you were doing all this time? Playing? What would you call it?" Robert challenged. "Living with a woman I didn't love, raising a child that wasn't mine, maintaining respectability while my actual life happened elsewhere? Yes, I was playing a part. We all were." Michael's fists clenched. "I idolized you. All my life I wanted to make you proud. I became a lawyer because you said it was a profession worthy of respect, not because I had any interest in law. I dated the kinds of women you approved of, joined the clubs you belonged to, molded myself into your image. And you've done very well," Robert said dismissively. "Harvard Law, junior partner at 31. You should be thanking me." "Thanking you?" Michael's voice rose. "For what? For making me believe Mom was weak and emotional? For convincing me Olivia was dramatic and unreliable? For turning us against each other so we'd never compare notes?" Olivia returned from the bathroom, her face pale but composed. "He's not worth it, Michael. None of this is." She turned to me. "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything I said earlier, for believing him all these years." "Sweetheart, you couldn't have known," I began. "But I should have," she insisted. "There were signs. The way Dad would say one thing to me about you, then something completely different to Michael. How he'd always managed to create conflict right before family events, then position himself as the reasonable one. Robert scoffed. Now you're making me sound like some master manipulator. I was just trying to maintain peace in an impossible situation. No, my mother said firmly. You were protecting yourself, Robert. Always yourself. I looked at my husband, this man I'd shared a bed with, raised children with, built a life with. I realized with startling clarity that I didn't know him at all, had never known him. Why did you do it, Robert? I asked quietly. Why marry me at all if you were in love with Elizabeth? He hesitated, something like genuine emotion flickering across his face. I thought I could have both, the respectable wife, the beautiful home, the successful practice, and Elizabeth. My escape, my passion. Your real life, I supplied. He nodded slowly. Yes. And us? Me, Olivia, Michael? What were we to you? The price of admission, he said simply. To the life I wanted. Something broke inside me then. Not my heart, which had been breaking in small increments for decades, but something more fundamental. The last threads of delusion, of hope that there had been some meaning to my sacrifice, some nobility in my endurance. Get out, I said, my voice so quiet I barely recognized it. Get out of this house. Catherine! Now! I shouted, surprising even myself with the force of it. Take whatever belongs to you personally and get out. Tonight. You can't just throw me out, he protested. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, I said coldly. I'm sure you have friends. Or perhaps Elizabeth's sister would take you in, since you've been so generous with her. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. It's nearly midnight. We're all upset. We should sleep on this. Talk again when we're calmer. There's nothing more to say, I told him. You've made it abundantly clear what the last 38 years have meant to you. Now I'm telling you what they meant to me. Wasted time I'll never get back. Robert looked around the room, searching for an ally and finding none. Even Michael, who had always been closer to his father, stood with arms crossed, face set in stone. Fine, Robert finally said. I'll go to the Marriott tonight, but this conversation isn't over. The practice, our finances, there's a lot to sort out. Though, we'll sort it out through lawyers, I replied. I think we've said enough to each other directly. As Robert left the dining room to pack an overnight bag, an eerie calm settled over me. I should have felt devastated, destroyed by the evening's revelations. Instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Like putting down a burden I'd carried so long. I'd forgotten how heavy it was. My mother reached for my hand across the table. Are you all right, Catherine? I considered the question seriously. No, but I think, eventually, I will be. Olivia came around the table and wrapped her arms around me, the first genuine hug we'd shared in years. I'm so sorry, Mom. All this time I thought, I believed. Shh, I stroked her hair. It's not your fault. He manipulated all of us. But I was so hard on you, she whispered. I called you weak, passive. I resented you for staying with him, for putting up with his behavior. I didn't understand. I didn't understand either, I admitted. Not really. Not until tonight. Michael joined our embrace, his tall frame enveloping both Olivia and me. We're going to fix this, Mom. All of it. The three of us, together. For the first time in decades, I allowed myself to cry freely. Not the careful, private tears I'd shed in bathroom showers or parked cars, but open, cleansing sobs that shook my entire body. My children held me through it, their presence a promise that whatever came next, I wouldn't face it alone. Robert left around 1 a.m, a single suitcase in hand, the slam of the front door echoing through the house like a gunshot. My children insisted on staying the night, Olivia in her old bedroom, Michael on the living room couch. My mother, too frail to return to her assisted living facility at such an hour, took the guest room. I couldn't sleep. Instead, I wandered the house like a ghost, touching familiar objects that suddenly seemed foreign. The leather armchair Robert read the newspaper in every Sunday morning. The collection of dental journals he kept meticulously arranged on the bookshelf. The photos of us on vacation, at graduations, at Michael's law school commencement. All of us smiling, none of us genuine. Around 4 a.m, I found myself in the attic, pulling out boxes I hadn't opened in years. There, beneath Christmas decorations and outgrown baby clothes, I found it. The box Robert had mentioned, containing James Wheaton's letters. I hadn't looked at them since discovering my pregnancy, hadn't wanted to torture myself with his flowery words of love that had proven so hollow when tested. Now, with trembling hands, I opened the first envelope. "My dearest Catherine," it began. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Elegant, confident strokes from a man who believed words could seduce, manipulate, create realities. I had been so young, so easily impressed by his intellect, his worldliness, his attention. Reading the letters now, with the wisdom of my 61 years, I saw what my 20-year-old self couldn't: the careful grooming, how he'd singled me out in class, suggesting special readings, offering private office hours, the calculated escalation, innocent discussions of literature becoming personal revelations, light touches becoming intimate encounters, the secrecy he'd insisted upon, our private world, he'd called it, when in reality he was protecting himself from professional consequences. The final letter was the one he'd written after I told him about the pregnancy. Cold, clinical, detailing the options available to me. No mention of love now. No poetic phrases or promises of a shared future. Just cash for an abortion and a semester abroad to process the experience. I set the letters aside, a strange calm settling over me. For decades, I'd carried the shame of that relationship, believing I'd been foolish, gullible, somehow deserving of abandonment. Now I recognized it for what it was: a predator targeting a vulnerable young woman, a man abusing his position of power. As dawn broke outside the attic window, painting the room in soft gray light, I realized something profound. I'd spent my entire adult life defining myself by the men who had failed me. First James with his false promises, then Robert with his conditional commitment. I'd been a footnote in their stories, rather than the author of my own. But that ended today. I gathered the letters and took them downstairs to the fireplace in the living room. Michael was still asleep on the couch, his tall frame awkwardly arranged on a space too small for him. I smiled at the sight. My beautiful son, who despite Robert's manipulation, had grown into a compassionate, honorable man. One by one, I fed James's letters into the flames, watching the paper curl and blacken, his elegant script disappearing forever. With each letter consumed by fire, I felt a weight lifting. By the time the last one was gone, reduced to nothing but ash, the first genuine smile in months spread across my face. "Mom." Michael had awakened, watching me with concern. "Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," I said, surprised to find it true. "I'm free." He sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What were you burning?" "The past," I said simply. "Or at least the parts of it that don't deserve space in my future." We made coffee together in comfortable silence, an intimacy we hadn't shared in years. By the time Olivia and my mother joined us, the kitchen was filled with the scent of brewing coffee and toasting bread. Simple comforts that suddenly felt profound. "So," Olivia said, sliding onto a stool at the kitchen island. "What now?" It was the question I'd been asking myself all night. What now indeed, after nearly 4 decades of defining myself as Robert's wife, who was Catherine Reynolds without him? "First, I need a lawyer," I said decisively. "A good one, not connected to any of Robert's friends or colleagues." "I have someone," Michael offered immediately. "Jeanette Kim. She specializes in high-conflict divorces, particularly ones with complex financial situations. She's tough but fair." I nodded gratefully. "Then I need to understand exactly where I stand financially. What Robert's taken, what's left, what I'm entitled to." "I can help with that," Olivia said. "My investigative skills aren't just for journalism, and I have contacts who can track down hidden assets if it comes to that." My mother smiled approvingly. "John would be so proud of you all right now. Working together, supporting each other. We should have done this years ago," Olivia said quietly. "No," I countered, surprising myself with my certainty. "This couldn't have happened until now. I wasn't ready before. I needed all the pieces to come together. Dad's protections, Elizabeth's death, Robert's financial misdeeds. I needed to see the full picture before I could walk away." "But all those years," Olivia protested. "All that pain." I reached for her hand. "Those years gave me you and Michael. They taught me strength I didn't know I had. They showed me that survival itself can be a form of defiance." I smiled slightly. "Besides, there's something satisfying about Robert losing everything, just as he thought he had it all secured." My mother laughed, a genuine, delighted sound I hadn't heard in years. Catherine Elizabeth Reynolds. You sound just like your father. Thank you, I said, meaning it deeply. That's the best compliment you could give me. As morning light streamed through the kitchen windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in golden beams, I felt something unfamiliar stirring within me. Not just anger or resolve, but possibility. For the first time in decades, my future was unwritten, undefined by obligations to a man who had never truly seen me. I think I want to travel, I said suddenly. Not right away, of course, after the divorce is settled, but there are so many places I've never seen. Where would you go first? Michael asked. I considered. Italy, I think. Florence. All those art museums Robert always said would bore him. You should do it, Olivia encouraged. Lily and I could come visit you there. She'd love to see her grandmother in a palazzo eating gelato. The image made me smile. Myself in some sun-drenched Italian square, my granddaughter's small hand in mine, free of the constraints that had defined my life for so long. I might sell some of these antiques, I continued, gesturing around the kitchen at the heritage furniture Robert had always been so proud of. His family pieces that he insisted we keep, even though they're uncomfortable and impractical. Burn them in the yard, Olivia suggested with a grin. Olivia, my mother protested, but her eyes twinkled. No, not burning, I decided. Selling them and using the money for something that brings me joy would be much more satisfying. Like what? Michael asked. I considered the question seriously. I'm not sure yet. That's what's so wonderful. I get to figure it out. For the first time in my adult life, I don't have to consider anyone else's preferences or comfort, just my own. We spent the morning making lists, practical things that needed handling, from changing the locks to notifying Robert's credit card companies that he was no longer authorized to use our joint accounts. My mother made calls to her financial advisor, confirming details about the family trust and helping me understand exactly what protections my father had put in place. As the day progressed, a plan began to take shape. Not just a survival plan, but something more ambitious. A reclamation of myself, piece by piece. I'm thinking of going back to school, I announced over lunch. Maybe get a master's in library science, specialize in rare books or archives. That's perfect for you, Mom, Michael said warmly. You've always loved old books. Robert thought it was a waste of money, I admitted. When I brought it up for our 20th anniversary, he said I was too old to start a new career. Olivia scoffed. He just didn't want you to have anything of your own. Well, now everything is my own, I said, the realization still fresh and startling. My mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand. John and I always knew this day might come. That's why we made the arrangements we did. He wanted you to have choices, Catherine. I didn't see them as choices for so long, I said softly. I saw them as obligations. Staying with Robert, maintaining appearances, protecting the children from scandal. I thought that was strength. It was strength, Olivia insisted. Just not the only kind. You endured. You sacrificed. You protected us as best you could. But now it's your turn, Michael added, to live for yourself. The phrase struck me with unexpected force. Live for myself. Had I ever done that? Even before Robert, I'd lived to please my parents, my professors, my peers, conforming, accommodating, shrinking myself to fit the spaces others allowed me. Yes, I said, straightening my shoulders. It is my turn, and I'm not wasting another day. 3 days after the confrontation, I sat in Jeanette Kim's office, a sleek space in downtown Springfield, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Connecticut River. Michael sat beside me, a legal pad balanced on his knee, occasionally jotting notes as his colleague outlined our options. Based on what you've told me, Mrs. Reynolds, and the documentation you've provided, we're in a stronger position than most of my clients, Jeanette said, her direct gaze both reassuring and formidable. The family trust protecting your home is particularly fortunate. My father was a cautious man, I replied. Cautious and prescient, Jeanette agreed. However, there are still significant concerns regarding your husband's financial activities. The practice loans, second mortgage payments. Where did all that money go? Michael leaned forward. That's what we need to find out. Dad claimed it went to his girlfriend's medical treatments and supporting her sister, but the amounts don't add up. Jeanette nodded, making a note in her leather portfolio. We'll need a forensic accountant to trace the funds. Given your husband's evasiveness, I recommend we subpoena his financial records immediately, before anything can be hidden or destroyed. He's already trying, I said quietly. pulling an envelope from my purse. This arrived by courier this morning. Jeanette opened it, scanning the contents with a practiced eye. A settlement offer. Interesting. She looked up. He's offering to give you the house, which he doesn't own anyway, in exchange for you waiving any claim to his retirement accounts or the practice. Is that reasonable? I asked. She shook her head firmly. Not even close. Massachusetts is an equitable distribution state. After a 38-year marriage, you're entitled to approximately half of all marital assets, regardless of whose name they're in. The practice was built during your marriage, with your support. You raised the children while he built his career. You have a strong claim to a significant portion of everything. A surge of vindication swept through me. All those years of Robert diminishing my contributions, acting as if his professional success existed independent of my support. Now, legally, my role would be acknowledged. There's something else you should know, Michael said, hesitation in his voice. We've been going through Dad's office at home. We found some documents that, well, they're concerning. He pulled several folders from his briefcase and spread them on Jeanette's desk. These are insurance policies. Multiple whole life policies on Mom, all purchased within the last 5 years. Together, they're worth over $2 million. Jeanette's eyebrows rose. With Robert as the sole beneficiary, I assume? Michael nodded grimly. And they all contain double indemnity clauses for accidental death. A cold chill ran down my spine. You're not suggesting... I don't know what I'm suggesting, Michael said carefully, but combined with his financial desperation and Elizabeth's death, it doesn't look good. Jeanette studied the policies with a frown. This is unusual. One policy would be standard estate planning, but 5 separate policies from different companies, all taken out recently. I'm going to recommend we bring this to the attention of the district attorney. Isn't that extreme? I asked, the thought of Robert, despite everything, facing criminal investigation disturbing me more than I expected. Mom, Michael said gently, we found something else too. He pulled out a small plastic bag containing several pills. These were hidden in a hollowed-out book in Dad's office. Olivia recognized them from a story she covered last year on prescription drug abuse. They're high-dose blood pressure medication, the kind that can cause heart attacks if taken by someone who doesn't need them. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Are you saying Robert was planning to... We don't know what he was planning, Michael said quickly. But given everything, the financial troubles, the insurance policies, the hidden medication, we need to be cautious. Jeanette leaned back in her chair, her expression grave. Mrs. Reynolds, I'm going to be very direct with you. These findings suggest your husband may have been contemplating something drastic to solve his financial problems. I strongly recommend you do not meet with him alone under any circumstances, and that you allow us to bring this information to the proper authorities. I nodded numbly, trying to process this new, darker dimension to Robert's betrayal. Had he actually considered harming me? The father of my children? The man who'd shared my bed for decades? Was he capable of such calculated evil? There's one more thing, I said, finding my voice. Something I found in the attic last night. I pulled out a small leather journal. It's Elizabeth's diary. It was hidden in a box of Robert's old textbooks. Michael looked shocked. How did Dad get her diary? I don't know, I admitted. But I read some of it and I swallowed hard. She was afraid of him, Michael, especially toward the end when she was sick. She wrote that he became enraged when her treatments weren't working, that he blamed her for wasting his money by not getting better. Jeanette took the diary, flipping through it carefully. This could be important evidence of his state of mind. With your permission, I'd like to make copies for our files and potentially share this with investigators. I nodded, a strange mix of emotions churning within me. Horror at what Robert might have been planning, vindication that Elizabeth too had seen his true nature, and an odd sense of connection to the woman who had been my rival for so long. We had both been victims of Robert's manipulation, though in different ways. There's something else you should know, I said, steeling myself, about Robert's relationship with Elizabeth. It wasn't what he claimed, not entirely. Michael frowned. What do you mean? According to her diary, their relationship wasn't continuous for 35 years. She left him several times, tried to build a life without him. She was even engaged briefly in the late 90s. I remember that, Michael said slowly. Dad was different that year, angry all the time, drinking more. You took Olivia and me to the lake house for most of that summer. Said Dad needed space because work was stressful. I nodded. Elizabeth writes that when she got engaged, Robert threatened to expose their affair to her fiancé, to ruin her reputation in the dental community. He told her no one would hire her if he spread rumors about her professionalism. Blackmail, Jeanette said grimly. She broke off the engagement and went back to him. I continued. But she never forgave him for it. Their relationship became more about control than love, at least on his side. When she got sick, he used her dependence on him for financial support as another form of control. Jesus, Michael whispered. I never saw this side of him. None of us did, I said. Not completely. We each saw the version of Robert he wanted us to see. Jeanette closed the diary and looked at me intently. Mrs. Reynolds, based on everything you've shared, I believe we have grounds not just for divorce proceedings, but potentially for criminal charges against your husband, financial fraud at minimum, and possibly more serious offenses. What should we do? I asked. First, we file for an emergency restraining order, she said decisively. Today. Then we contact the district attorney about the insurance policies and medication. We'll need to move quickly on freezing assets as well, whatever hasn't already been depleted. As Jeanette outlined the legal strategy, I felt an odd sense of clarity emerging from the chaos of revelations. Robert had spent decades constructing elaborate deceptions, maintaining his respectable facade while secretly bankrupting our family to support his double life. Now those deceptions were crumbling, revealing not just a cheater, but potentially something far more sinister. There's one thing I don't understand, I said suddenly. If Robert has been funneling money to Elizabeth and her sister for years, where did it all go? Even extensive cancer treatments wouldn't account for the amounts Michael's found missing. Jeanette and Michael exchanged glances. That's what the forensic accountant will help us determine, Jeanette said carefully. But based on my experience in similar cases, there are several possibilities. Gambling debts, addictions, or he's hidden assets, Michael finished. Created accounts we don't know about, planning for the day when everything fell apart. The thought landed like a stone. Robert, methodically squirreling away funds while draining our joint accounts, preparing his own safety net while leaving me to drown. It fit the pattern. His selfishness, his planning, his fundamental dishonesty. If he has hidden money, we'll find it, Jeanette assured me. Forensic accountants can trace funds through remarkably complex schemes, and if we do find evidence of deliberate concealment, it strengthens our position in the divorce significantly. As we left Jeanette's office an hour later, armed with a temporary restraining order and the first volley of legal documents to be served to Robert, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades. Power. Not power over others, but power over my own life, my own future. You okay, Mom? Michael asked as we walked to his car. I considered the question seriously. I'm angry, I realized. Really, genuinely angry. Not just sad or hurt or disappointed, furious. He smiled slightly. Good, you should be. I've spent so many years swallowing that anger, convincing myself it was wrong to feel it, that a good wife, a good mother, a good Christian woman shouldn't harbor such negative emotions. And now I think anger is exactly what I need. It's clarifying, energizing. I straightened my shoulders. And it's telling me exactly what I need to do next. The next 2 weeks unfolded with dizzying speed. Robert was served with divorce papers at his hotel, followed by notice of a hearing regarding the restraining order. The district attorney's office opened an investigation into potential insurance fraud based on the evidence we'd provided, freezing Robert's remaining assets in the process. His response was swift and predictable. Rage, denial, then a clumsy attempt at manipulation. He left tearful voicemails for Michael, sent Olivia long emails about how her mother was overreacting and mentally unstable. He even tried to contact my mother at her assisted living facility, only to be turned away by staff who had been warned not to admit him. Through it all, I remained unreachable, following Jeanette's advice to maintain complete silence. Each desperate attempt to contact me only confirmed what I now understood. Robert had never respected my boundaries, had always assumed his needs and feelings took precedence over mine. He's panicking, Olivia observed as we sat in my kitchen on a crisp October morning, reviewing the latest legal updates. The DA's investigator told me they've found at least 3 offshore accounts. Turns out, Elizabeth's treatments were largely deposits to banks in the Cayman Islands. So he was planning his escape, I said. the final piece clicking into place. Draining our accounts, taking out loans against the practice, all while setting up his own financial safety net, and possibly contemplating a more permanent solution to his problems, Michael added grimly. He'd arrived from Boston the night before, bringing additional documents from Jeanette and news that the investigators had found prescriptions for the blood pressure medication written by Robert himself, using the name of a deceased patient. I shivered, despite the warmth of the kitchen. I still can't believe he would have actually... We'll never know for certain, Olivia said gently, but the evidence suggests he was at least considering it. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Michael checked the security camera app on his phone, one of many new safety measures we'd implemented. It's the forensic cleaning team, he said, rising to let them in. I decided to have Robert's home office and personal spaces professionally searched and cleaned, both for potential evidence and for my own peace of mind. The thought of him having hidden things throughout our home, secret caches of pills or documents or God knows what else, had made it impossible for me to relax. As the team worked methodically upstairs, Olivia spread several folders across the kitchen table. I've been investigating Dad's practice finances, she said, journalist instincts in full gear. The story's even worse than we thought. She showed me documents revealing that Robert had been falsifying insurance claims for years, billing for procedures never performed, using defunct patient IDs to submit claims. The amounts weren't large enough individually to trigger audits, but collectively they added up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's going to lose his license, I said quietly, even if he avoids criminal charges. Olivia nodded grimly. The practice is essentially worthless now. Once the insurance fraud comes to light, no buyer will touch it. Strangely, I felt no satisfaction at this news. Despite everything, I took no pleasure in Robert's professional destruction. The man had devoted his life to dentistry, had genuinely helped thousands of patients over his career. That this too would be tainted by his deceptions seemed almost tragic. What about his partners? I asked. Will they be implicated? That's the one piece of good news, Michael said. Dad was careful to keep the fraudulent billing isolated to his own patient records. His partners appear to be clean. The cleaning team leader appeared in the kitchen doorway. Mrs. Reynolds, we've completed the search of the office and master bedroom. There are a few items you should see. She led us upstairs to Robert's office, where several objects had been arranged on a clean sheet spread across his desk. A small address book, a USB drive, a set of keys I didn't recognize, and a manila envelope. The USB drive was taped beneath his desk drawer, the technician explained. The keys and address book were in a hidden compartment in his filing cabinet. The envelope was inside the lining of his winter coat in the master bedroom closet. I reached for the envelope first, opening it carefully. Inside was a stack of photographs. Robert and Elizabeth together, spanning what appeared to be decades. There they were on a beach I didn't recognize, her in a red bikini, him looking younger and happier than I'd ever seen him. Another showed them at what appeared to be a party, his arm around her waist, both dressed elegantly. A third captured them in what was clearly a hospital room, Elizabeth in a bed, thin and pale, Robert beside her looking haggard and old. The real relationship, Olivia said softly, looking over my shoulder. While we got the performance, the address book contained names I didn't recognize, except for one, Elizabeth's sister, Margaret Palmer, with an address in Phoenix, Arizona. The USB drive, when Michael plugged it into his laptop, contained financial records, meticulous documentation of the offshore accounts, passwords, account numbers. He documented everything, Michael said, scrolling through the files, almost as if he wanted it to be found eventually, or as if he needed to keep track of his own complex web of lies, I suggested. The keys remained a mystery until the following day, when Olivia discovered they opened a storage unit in a facility on the outskirts of town. Inside, we found more pieces of Robert's secret life, expensive luggage, a passport in his name but with a different birth date, several boxes of what appeared to be Elizabeth's belongings. He was planning to disappear, Michael concluded as we cataloged the contents. New identity, offshore accounts, essential documents and mementos, everything needed for a clean break and fresh start. But Elizabeth's illness changed his timeline, Olivia added. He had to use the escape funds for her care instead. I picked up a framed photograph from one of the boxes, Elizabeth and Robert on what appeared to be a terrace in some Mediterranean setting, wine glasses in hand, sunset illuminating their smiling faces. They look happy, I said. surprised by the lack of bitterness I felt. They actually looked genuinely happy. Does that make it better or worse? Olivia asked gently. I considered the question. Better, I think. If it had all been a lie, the relationship, the love between them, then everything would have been for nothing. At least this way, someone got something real out of the wreckage of our marriage. Michael looked at me with concern. Mom, you don't have to be noble about this. It's okay to be angry, to want justice. I set the photograph down carefully. Oh, I want justice, Michael, but not revenge. There's a difference. As we locked up the storage unit, having documented everything for Jeanette and the investigators, I felt another piece of the past's hold over me loosen and fall away. Robert's secret life was secret no more. His plans, his manipulations, his alternate reality, all exposed to the light. Back at home, I found my mother waiting in the living room, a large cardboard box beside her chair. I went through your father's old files, she explained. Found a few more things you should see. Inside the box were folders of legal documents. Not just the trust protecting our house, but additional safeguards my father had established over the years. A separate trust for my personal inheritance. Educational funds for Olivia and Michael that Robert couldn't access. Even a small portfolio of stocks in my name that Dad had managed quietly, growing modestly but steadily over decades. He never trusted Robert, Mom said simply. Not from day one. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. No accusation in my voice, just genuine curiosity. She sighed heavily. I should have. But you were so determined, Catherine. So convinced you were doing the right thing, making the noble choice. I was afraid if I pushed too hard, you'd cut us out completely. So instead, your father and I decided to work behind the scenes, creating safety nets you might never need but would always have. I leaned over and kissed her cheek. Thank you. For that, and for being here now. I just wish I'd spoken up sooner, she said, regret heavy in her voice. We all made the choices we thought were right at the time, I reminded her. Even Robert, in his way. She snorted. That man didn't make choices. He made calculations. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps Robert had never acted from genuine feeling, only from cold assessment of what would benefit him most. Or perhaps, as the photo of him with Elizabeth suggested, he was capable of real love, just not for me. Either way, it no longer defined my world. As evening settled over the house, Olivia ordered pizza and Michael opened wine. We gathered in the living room, the four of us, family in the truest sense, and began making plans. Not just legal strategies or financial arrangements, but life plans. Dreams long deferred, now possible. I'm thinking of selling this house, I announced. Once everything's settled. Really? Olivia looked surprised. But it's yours free and clear. You've lived here most of your life. I looked around at the familiar walls, the antiques selected by Robert's mother, the formal spaces rarely used but meticulously maintained. That's just it, I explained. This house has never really been mine. It's been a stage set for the life Robert wanted to project. I want something that's truly mine. Smaller, cozier, filled only with things I love. My mother nodded approvingly. Your father would understand completely. What about the practice? Michael asked. Once the legal issues are resolved, I mean. I'd been thinking about this too. I want to offer Robert's partners the chance to buy out his share, at a fair price, taking into account the damage his actions have caused. They're good dentists, good people. They shouldn't suffer for his choices. That's generous, Olivia observed. Not generous, I corrected. Just right. I don't want to profit from Robert's destruction, only reclaim what's legitimately mine. As night fell and my mother retired to the guest room, my children and I continued talking, more openly, more honestly than we had in years. Old misunderstandings were clarified, manipulations exposed, wounds beginning to heal. It felt like excavation, digging through layers of sediment to find solid bedrock beneath. You know what's strange? I said, as our evening wound down. I feel more married to your father, now that I'm divorcing him, than I did during our actual marriage. Now, at least, I'm seeing the real man, not the performance. You're seeing clearly, Olivia said. Maybe for the first time. I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. And strangely enough, I'm grateful for that clarity, however it came. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in early November, exactly 6 weeks after the night when everything had unraveled. The courthouse in downtown Springfield was a stately brick building with marble columns and wide stone steps, the kind of place that had always intimidated me with its formality and authority. Now, as I climbed those steps with Jeanette beside me and my children flanking us like bodyguards, I felt none of my usual trepidation. The plan was straightforward. This was just a scheduling hearing for the divorce proceedings, separate from the criminal investigation that was building against Robert. We would present our initial filing, Robert would have the opportunity to respond, and the judge would set dates for discovery and subsequent hearings. What we didn't expect was for Robert to show up with a full press contingent. "Ambush," Jeanette muttered, as we approached the courthouse and saw television vans and reporters gathered near the entrance. "He's trying to control the narrative." Robert stood at the center of the media storm, dressed impeccably in a dark suit, looking every inch the respected professional unfairly persecuted. As we approached, I could hear snippets of his statement. Completely fabricated allegations from an emotionally unstable woman. Conspiracy involving my estranged wife's family to deprive me of my rightful assets. Decades of dedication to this community and my patients, now being rewarded with character assassination. Jeanette placed a protective hand on my arm. "We can use the side entrance. You don't have to face this circus." I considered the offer for a moment, tempted by the easy escape. Then I straightened my shoulders and shook my head. "No, I've been avoiding difficult confrontations my entire life." "Not today." Olivia squeezed my hand. "Are you sure, Mom? He's got a whole audience for his performance." "Good," I said with sudden clarity. "Then they'll see both sides of the story." We moved forward, and as we approached, the reporters noticed us. Camera lenses swiveled, microphones extended in our direction. Robert's face, when he spotted us, flickered with momentary surprise before settling back into his mask of dignified suffering. "Catherine," he called out, voice pitched perfectly to carry to the cameras while appearing intimate. "Please, can't we discuss this privately, like rational adults?" I stopped a few feet from him, conscious of the cameras, the microphones, the audience. For a moment, habit nearly took over. The instinct to acquiesce, to avoid public conflict, to maintain appearances at all costs. "You want privacy now, Robert?" I said instead, my voice surprisingly steady. "After bringing television cameras to our divorce hearing? That's an interesting definition of privacy." A ripple of reaction passed through the assembled journalists. Robert's confident smile faltered slightly. "I'm simply trying to protect my reputation," he said smoothly. "A reputation I've spent decades building in this community, which your wild accusations are threatening to destroy." "Your reputation," I echoed. "Yes, that's always been your primary concern, hasn't it? How things appear, rather than what they actually are." I was aware of Jeanette beside me, ready to intervene if needed, but also giving me space to speak for myself, perhaps for the first time in our marriage. "These reporters don't know what happened in our home," I continued, voice gaining strength. "They don't know about the decades of deception, the financial fraud, the manipulation of our children. They don't know about the other woman, the offshore accounts, the insurance policies you took out on my life." Robert's face darkened. "Catherine, you're making a spectacle of yourself. This isn't how respectable people behave." The familiar words, designed to shame me into compliance, washed over me without effect. I'd spent a lifetime being respectable by his definition, at the cost of my own dignity and truth. "No, Robert," I said clearly. "This is exactly how honest people behave when they've been deceived for 38 years. They speak the truth, regardless of who's listening." A reporter called out, "Dr. Reynolds, can you respond to your wife's allegations about financial improprieties?" Robert turned, clearly relieved to address someone other than me. "My financial affairs are complex, as is appropriate for someone of my professional standing. My wife never showed interest in these matters during our marriage, and is now, unfortunately, misinterpreting normal business practices as something sinister." "Is it normal business practice to create offshore accounts under false names?" Olivia interjected, stepping forward with the calm authority she'd developed as an investigative journalist. "Or to falsify insurance claims using defunct patient IDs, because the district attorney seems quite interested in those particular business practices." Robert's face flushed dark red. "Olivia, this is between your mother and me. You shouldn't involve yourself in matters you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Olivia countered. "I've spent the last month documenting every financial transaction you've made for the past 5 years. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every shell company. It's what I do professionally, remember? The daughter you were too busy to support through journalism school turned out to be quite good at following paper trails. The reporters were scribbling frantically now, cameras rolling continuously. Robert looked from Olivia to me, then to Michael, searching for an ally and finding none. "This is absurd," he blustered. "A family dispute being turned into a public circus. If you had any respect for our years together, Catherine, you'd insist on handling this privately." "Respect works both ways, Robert," I replied evenly, "and privacy is what allowed your deceptions to continue for decades. I'm not interested in either hiding or performing anymore." A court officer appeared at the top of the steps. "Reynolds versus Reynolds. Judge Harriman's courtroom. 5 minutes." Jeanette touched my arm. "We should go in." I nodded, ready to move past this public confrontation to the more structured environment of the courtroom. But as we turned to go, Robert made one last desperate play. "Catherine," he called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Think about what you're doing. 38 years of marriage. Everything we built together. You're throwing it all away because of what? Some insurance policies you misunderstood? Some business accounts you didn't know about? Is that worth destroying our family?" I turned back, meeting his eyes directly. "Our family was destroyed long ago, Robert. By your choices, your lies, your betrayals. What I'm doing now isn't destruction. It's finally, belatedly, standing in my own truth." He stepped closer, dropping his voice to a harsh whisper meant only for me. "You'll regret this. When the lawyers have taken everything, when you're alone in that big house, when the children have gone back to their lives and forgotten all about poor victimized mom, then you'll see what you've lost." I smiled then, a genuine smile that seemed to unnerve him more than anger would have. "No, Robert, I finally see what I've gained." Inside the courtroom, the proceedings were anticlimactic compared to the drama outside. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, listened to initial statements from both attorneys, set dates for discovery and future hearings, and maintained the temporary restraining order with minimal comment. Robert's attorney, a sleek man with an expensive suit and practiced indignation, attempted to paint me as an hysterical woman manufacturing accusations out of spite. Jeanette calmly presented initial evidence of the financial irregularities, the insurance policies, and Robert's attempts to hide assets, her measured professionalism a stark contrast to his theatrical outrage. When it was over, Judge Harriman looked directly at Robert. "Dr. Reynolds, I strongly suggest you instruct your client to comply fully with discovery requests and to refrain from further attempts to try this case in the media. This court has little patience for such tactics." Outside, the reporters were still waiting, but their questions had shifted focus, now directed more toward Robert's financial activities than our marital discord. As we descended the courthouse steps, I noticed Margaret Palmer, Elizabeth's sister, standing at the edge of the crowd, watching the scene with a strange expression. I detached myself from our group and approached her. "Margaret, I'm Catherine Reynolds." She nodded, her face gaunt and tired. "I know who you are. I've known about you for 35 years, and I learned about you only recently," I replied. "I'm sorry about your sister." She studied me carefully. "Are you?" "Sorry, I considered the question honestly. Yes, not because I knew her, but because suffering is always sad. Cancer is a terrible way to die." She seemed to accept this. "Elizabeth wanted to meet you, near the end. She said there were things you deserved to hear directly from her. Robert never told me." "Of course he didn't." Margaret sighed heavily. "Robert controlled every aspect of their relationship. Who knew about it? When they could see each other? How much of himself he was willing to give? In the end, he even controlled how she died. Alone, because he was afraid of being seen at the hospice too often. The cruelty of this struck me deeply. I would have come, if I'd known she wanted to speak with me." Margaret nodded. "I believe you would have. Elizabeth believed it too. That's why she left you this." She handed me an envelope. "She wrote it during her last week. Asked me to make sure you got it if anything happened to her." I took the envelope, feeling its weight. Not just physical, but emotional. "Thank you. Don't thank me," she said bluntly. "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for my sister, who died with too many secrets and too many regrets." As she turned to leave, I called after her. "Margaret, did Robert really pay for Elizabeth's treatments? Her care?" She paused, looking back with a bitter smile. Some of it, enough to maintain control, not enough to save her. The experimental treatment that might have helped? He said it was too expensive, too uncertain. But he had money for trips, for jewelry, for that storage unit full of escape plans, just not for the one thing that mattered most to her. With that, she walked away, disappearing into the crowd before I could respond. Later that evening, alone in my bedroom, I opened Elizabeth's letter. The handwriting was shaky, deteriorating toward the end, the efforts of someone using their last strength to communicate something vital. "Catherine," it began, "by the time you read this, I'll be gone, and the truth will likely be coming to light. I've asked Robert repeatedly to be honest with you, to end the deception that has defined all our lives for too long. Since he refused, this letter is my attempt to give you what you deserve, the truth, and perhaps some measure of peace." 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of my new home, a sunlit cottage overlooking the Connecticut River Valley, with a garden that bloomed riotously even in November's fading light. The space was entirely my own, filled only with things I had chosen, arranged according to my preferences alone. No heavy antiques, no formal dining room, no spaces maintained for appearances rather than living. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, after Robert finally accepted that his attempts to manipulate the process had only strengthened the case against him. The financial investigation had uncovered even more than we initially suspected, not just fraud and hidden assets, but embezzlement from his own partners, systematic billing irregularities spanning decades. He avoided jail time by accepting a plea deal, surrendering his dental license, paying substantial restitution, and agreeing to 5 years probation. The last I heard, he was living in Arizona, working as a consultant for a dental equipment supplier. A diminished life, but not a destroyed one. I had sold the Victorian house, dividing the proceeds with my children despite their protests that I should keep everything. "The money means more to you starting your lives than to me ending mine," I'd told them. And eventually they'd accepted the gift in the spirit it was offered. Olivia had used her portion to buy a small house in Northampton, where she lived with Lily and her ex-husband Jake, with whom she'd reconciled after years of strained co-parenting. The truth about Robert's manipulations, how he deliberately sowed discord in their marriage through subtle comments and well-meaning interventions, had been a revelation that helped heal old wounds between them. Michael had invested his share in leaving his corporate law firm to start a non-profit legal clinic serving low-income seniors, work that energized him in ways his previous career never had. "Grandpa would have loved this," he told me during his last visit, "using the law to protect vulnerable people, just like he protected you." The kettle whistled, pulling me from my reflections. I made tea and carried it to the small desk in my sunroom, where my laptop sat open to a half-written application for the master's program in library science at Smith College. At 62, I would be the oldest student in the program by decades, but that thought excited rather than daunted me. Elizabeth's letter lay beside the computer, worn now from multiple readings, its truths absorbed and integrated into my understanding of the past. She had confirmed much of what I'd already pieced together, but added dimensions I couldn't have known. How Robert had repeatedly promised to leave me, then invented reasons to delay. How he'd used each woman against the other, telling Elizabeth I was fragile and dependent, telling me she was demanding and difficult. The final paragraph still moved me, even after dozens of readings. "I don't ask for your forgiveness, Catherine. What happened between Robert and me can't be excused or erased. But I do want you to know that my greatest regret is not finding the courage to break free of him sooner. Not for my sake, but for yours. We both deserved better than being supporting characters in the story Robert Reynolds told himself about his life. I hope that when the truth comes out, as it inevitably must, you'll find the strength to write your own story at last." And that was what I was doing, word by word, choice by choice, day by day, writing my own story at last. My mother came to live with me after selling her condo, not out of dependence but companionship. At 84, she remained sharp and opinionated, her presence a comfortable counterpoint to my newfound independence. We gardened together, joined a local book club, volunteered at the library I hoped to work in after completing my degree. "Catherine," she called from the front porch, interrupting my reverie. "Olivia's here with Lily." I closed the laptop and went to greet them. my heart lifting at the sight of my daughter, confident and thriving in ways I'd never seen before, and my granddaughter, now 4 and bursting with energy. "Grammy!" Lily launched herself into my arms. "We brought pumpkins for your garden, and Mom says I can stay overnight while she goes to Boston for her award." Olivia had received a prestigious journalism award for her series on elder financial abuse, work inspired by what had happened to me but expanded to expose systemic vulnerabilities affecting seniors nationwide. The ceremony was tomorrow evening, and Michael was flying in to attend with her. "I thought we could make pumpkin bread," I suggested to Lily, who nodded enthusiastically. "With chocolate chips? Grandma Eleanor says that's the secret ingredient." "Absolutely with chocolate chips," I agreed, winking at my mother, who pretended innocence. As Lily ran to the backyard to explore, Olivia handed me a thick manila envelope. "This came for you, forwarded from the old house." I recognized the law firm's name immediately. Wheaton, Morgan and Associates. James Wheaton's firm. My heart skipped a beat. "Do you want me to stay while you open it?" Olivia asked gently. She knew the whole story now. About James. About her biological origins. About the complex web of decisions that had shaped all our lives. I shook my head. "No, sweetheart. Go finish packing for Boston. I'll be fine." After she'd gone upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope with steady hands. Inside was a formal letter and several legal documents. "Dear Ms. Reynolds," it began, "I represent the estate of James Wheaton, who passed away last month at the age of 86. Among his papers was a sealed letter addressed to you, with instructions that it be delivered in the event of his death, along with certain financial provisions he established on your behalf." I set down the letter, breathless with surprise. James Wheaton, dead. The man who had altered the course of my life, whom I'd neither seen nor spoken to since that summer in 1984, had apparently been thinking of me all these years. The sealed letter inside was handwritten, the script elegant but shaky with age. "Catherine," it read, "if you're reading this, I am gone, and you are finally hearing words I should have said decades ago. I'm sorry, not just for the pregnancy and my shameful response, but for my cowardice in all the years since. I told myself I was respecting your choice to build a life without me, but in truth, I was protecting myself from the consequences of my actions. I've followed your life from afar, your marriage, your children, your work at the library. I've always admired your dignity, your resilience, your quiet strength. The enclosed trust represents what I should have provided from the beginning, support for you and for our daughter. It's a poor substitute for 45 years of absence, but it's all I have to offer now. I hope it might provide you both with options, with freedom to choose paths unburdened by financial constraints. You deserved so much better than what I gave you, than what Reynolds gave you. I hope these final years of your life bring you the joy and peace that have always been rightfully yours." It was signed simply James, with a postscript. "Olivia has your eyes. I saw her once, at a journalism conference in Chicago. She has your strength too." The legal documents outlined a trust containing just over $2 million, divided equally between Olivia and me. A fortune by our standards. Enough to secure Olivia's future, to fund Lily's education, to ensure my own comfort for whatever years remained to me. I sat with the letter for a long time, feelings too complex to name washing through me. Not gratitude, exactly, nor forgiveness, but something adjacent to both. A sense of circles closing, of accounts settled, of karmic balances restored. When Olivia came back downstairs, I handed her the letter silently. She read it, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion to thoughtful acceptance. "How do you feel about this?" she asked finally. I considered the question carefully. "I feel free. Free of the last lingering thread connecting me to a past that no longer defines me. And the money is yours, primarily. I have what I need, but it represents choices, for both of us. The ability to pursue what matters without compromise. That seems fitting somehow." Olivia nodded slowly. "All these men, Dad, James, trying to fix with money what they broke with their choices." "Yes," I agreed, "but there's a difference. Robert used money to control, to maintain appearances. James seems to have genuinely wanted to offer freedom, even if too late to matter in the ways it once might have. Later, As evening settled over the valley and Lily slept upstairs, I sat on my porch with my mother, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. The November air was crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves. "You seem at peace," Mom observed. "More than I've ever seen you." "I am," I agreed. "For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I want to be, doing exactly what I choose to do, surrounded only by people who genuinely love me." "Your father would be proud," she said. "Not just of how you handled the divorce, but of who you've become since. Stronger, more certain, more yourself." I smiled, thinking of Dad, his quiet strength, his foresight, his unwavering love. I think he always saw this version of me, even when I couldn't see it myself. "That's what love does," Mom said simply. "It sees the truth beneath the performance." As darkness fell completely, I thought about all the women I had been. The naive college student seduced by an unworthy man, the grateful young bride settling for conditional love, the devoted mother sacrificing authenticity for stability, the betrayed wife finding her voice at last. Each version had brought me here, to this moment of hard-won peace, this life reclaimed from the ashes of deception. I had no illusions that the road ahead would be perfectly smooth. There would be challenges. Adapting to student life at 62, navigating the complexities of Olivia's relationship with the truth about her father, finding my place in a world I'd been hiding from for decades. But for the first time, these challenges felt like invitations rather than obstacles, opportunities to continue becoming the woman I was always meant to be. "Time for tea?" Mom asked, rising carefully from her chair. "Yes," I said, taking her arm as we walked inside, to the warm kitchen that was truly mine at last. "That sounds perfect."